Imagine discovering your neighbor is secretly stealing your water. And instead of confronting him, you silently flip a switch and watch his entire life fall apart like dominoes, all without saying a single word. If you've ever fantasized about delivering the ultimate karma without breaking a sweat, you're going to love the story. Hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for one of the most brutally satisfying revenge stories you'll hear today. I live in Asia, the heart of a loud, overgrown capital city, and just bought a house that had been sitting empty for nearly 3 years. The owners were family friends who had long moved abroad and needed quick cash. So I landed the place for a steal. But it wasn't just a house, it was a project, half renovated, no front gate, a simple padlock on the main door, basically an open invitation to anyone passing by. And I quickly learned that my new neighbors had treated it that way for years. Day one, I walked into my own garage and found a stranger's motorcycle parked inside. I calmly wheeled it to the curb and had a steel gate installed that very same evening. Hours later, some guy banged on the gate like he owned the place. I didn't answer. He left after 15 minutes and took the bike with him. It was a small thing, but that was the moment I knew this neighborhood was going to test me. Still, things settled down for a while. I fixed the door, put up a no parking sign, and slowly started reclaiming my space. Until one morning, during a shower, I noticed something odd. The water pressure had dropped, not just a little. It was a noticeable, annoying trickle. And right then, I heard the unmistakable hum of a water pump coming from the house next door. Now, that house belongs to an old man, a retired mechanic. He lives on the ground floor and rents out the upper 2 levels to tenants. But what caught my attention wasn't the sound of the pump. It was the timing. Because as soon as his pump turned off, my water pressure bounced back to normal. Coincidence? Maybe. But my gut said otherwise. I tested it again the next day. Same result. And that's when it hit me. The bills. The skyrocketing water bills on this property, even while it sat empty. Everyone had blamed it on leaky pipes or old plumbing. But what if someone had tapped into the system? Someone like my charming next-door neighbor. I didn't have hard evidence. No exposed pipe or obvious connection. But I didn't need a confession. The signs were too clear, and my instincts were screaming. Now, in my country, water is dirt cheap. We're talking $5 a month for heavy usage, car washes, garden watering, 3 dogs bathing. But this wasn't about the money. It was about entitlement, about someone helping himself to my property, my resources, just because he thought he could. I could have confronted him, called the authorities, but instead, I chose something simpler, quieter, and far more devastating. I waited until the next Monday. It was just after sundown. I sat by my window and listened. There it was again, the neighbor's pump kicking on, probably topping off the rooftop tanks for his tenants. I quietly stepped outside, walked to my side connection, and turned off my water at the mains. That's it, one flick of the wrist. And I went back inside like nothing happened. Now here's where things get delicious. In my country, most rooftop tanks work on a ball valve system. When the water drops too low, the valve opens and signals the pump to turn on. When the tank fills, the valve closes, shutting off the pump. But if no water flows in, the pump just keeps running, nonstop. And if your wiring is 30 years old, that's a recipe for disaster. At 3 a.m., I woke up to a weird silence, followed by voices, angry voices, from the house next door. No lights, no water. The tenants were shouting, demanding answers. By morning, one of them had packed up and moved out. 2 days later, the other filed a complaint with the local police. In my country, power and water are essential services. The law is strict. A landlord who can't provide them is liable for massive fines and penalties. The tenants blamed him, and they were right. Police didn't wait for a court. They slapped him with a $500 fine on the spot, and he still had to refund both security deposits. Oh, and he couldn't rent the rooms out again until the electrical system was repaired and a functioning water source was guaranteed. All of that because I turned one valve. A few days later, the old man came to my gate. His face was calm, but his eyes, oh, he was steaming under the surface. "Did you turn off your water?" he asked, trying to sound casual. I smiled. "Oh, yeah, there was a leak in the tank. I shut it off until the plumber came by the next day." He paused. His lips tightened. "Ah, okay," he said and turned away. He knew. I knew. And he knew I knew. But he also knew there was nothing he could do. His wiring was fried. His tenants were gone. His income gone. And by the weekend, I saw him hauling bags into a cab, moving in with his daughter. He never stole another drop of water again. Sometimes, karma doesn't need a courtroom or a confrontation. Sometimes, it just needs one quiet act of resistance, and the weight of someone's own choices crashing down on them. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the pettiest thing you've ever done that led to massive karma? And of course, subscribe for more emotionally charged stories where justice always finds a way.